Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. Talk some football. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, joins us every Friday. We bumped him back a little bit, but we got time for him. Preston, how are you?
Hey, Hunt, thanks for accommodating me today. Appreciate it, man.
All good. Let's talk some football. I teased this a little earlier. I wanted to talk about some rising sophomores this spring that you may have an eye on. The cliche is teams do their best improvement from week 1 to week 2. I would really invest that a lot of guys make their biggest improvement between year 1 and year 2 at the college level. Who are a guy or two that are sophomores to be that you've got your eye on this spring?
Yeah, one guy I'm really interested to see is Shelton Sampson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got so much talent. He's big, long, and just really fast. But last year, you could just tell the difference between him and a polished Brian Thomas. He looks like a young Brian Thomas out there. But you could just see the difference in a, veteran, guy who's been able to add that muscle mass and craft on his routes and stuff like that. You could just see the difference in practice. But that being said, I still think Shelton Sampson is a guy who, if he develops and adds the muscle mass, he could be, a big star player. He was highly recruited for a reason. And I find when it comes to star players, this sophomore year is always telling because, guys like Leonard Fournette, they'll come in as true freshmen. They just got there, got to figure things out, and takes them a little while, and they'll get buried for a year, right? They have some moments, but it's nothing crazy. But if that sophomore year doesn't go as expected, you start to question if that talent was really there to begin with, or if it was a misevaluation, if coaches are using them right. It really is kind of telling.
Yeah, I agree. I think you need to kind of break out as a sophomore. Jarvis and Odell absolutely did that. Leonard Fournette was unstoppable as a sophomore. Malik Neighbors had 1,000 yards as a sophomore. Those are just some names off the top of my head there. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. Caleb Jackson, do you see a breakout potential in him?
You should. You should. I mean, last year he was just buried. There was 8 backs on the team and so many veteran guys. This year, Josh Williams will be there. I think me and you would both expect Josh Williams is probably your game 1, snap 1 back, right? But you should see Caleb Jackson in the mix pretty early, considering the only other running back that will be on roster is Caden Durham, who's a true freshman as well. Now, he's a talented true freshman. He's the kind of guy I really could see coming in and competing for reps. But I think we all saw the talent that Caleb Jackson was just oozing with last year, right? Just got buried. I would say from Caleb Jackson's perspective, if he's not the leading rusher a year from now, that would be a disappointment from on his end, I would say.
I would agree with that for sure. A guy that I haven't talked a lot about, but got some recognition when he flipped to LSU right there at the end and was not really a factor at all. This past year's Pimpton. It's kind of a logjam there where it was barren when Brian Kelly got here at tight end, but do you think Pimpton has a chance to kind of break through and make some plays?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think Mason Taylor's got that number 1 tight end spot on lockdown. And if we're being frank, last year that offense with Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, there was barely enough reps to get Mason Taylor involved, much less backup players. And if the backups were to get involved, it would be used as blockers at that point. So next year, you talk about a logjam, man. I mean, you still got Matt Markway on campus who, very talented player, probably a better blocker than Pimpton was, but you're also bringing in the 5-star true freshman Tradez Green. And as good as Pimpton was as a receiver coming out of high school, Tradez Green is better as a receiver. So you're really going to have a fight. It should be like an all-out brawl. Like what Dan Campbell said with the Lions, we're going to be biting for kneecap. That's what your backup tight end battle is going to look like. Like, these guys are all really close in talent and development. It should be interesting. I'll say this about Pimpton. If he doesn't go out there and get 20 grabs next year, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not a good player because of what they've got at that spot.
You mentioned Dan Campbell, former tight end himself. Dan Campbell in the NFL for a long time. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. It was a common refrain last year around October or so. Just get Weeks in there. Let Weeks play. they're going to let Weeks play, I would imagine, this year. How big an impact and how big a jump can he make to help the defense?
Yeah, I don't see any way you keep him off the field 2 years in a row. He's just so good, and he's an instinctive player. That being said, I don't think any of the linebackers necessarily played with good pursuit angles or tackling last year. So really hoping Blake Baker can get in there, work on those fundamentals. Remember the work he did with Damone Clark here at LSU? It was phenomenal. He turned him into one of the best linebackers in country, if not the best. So really, I mean, everybody first eye is going to go to Harold Perkins in the middle, right? And really hoping that he does magic with him. Don't overlook Whit Weeks. I don't see a way he's off the field like he was last year.
Very, very unenviable position for Ashton Stamps and Javian Toviano last year to come in, true freshman, hey, go cover everybody because the older guys are either hurt or suspended or aren't good enough. And they got beat a lot last year. Do you expect those two guys to play big roles in the secondary this year?
Yeah, for them, it's a little bit of a different conversation. You know, we talk about guys like Caleb Jackson who didn't get the spotlight last year because he was buried. Well, those guys had every opportunity to. I mean, if anybody in that defensive backfield who was available, if they were playing good SEC football, would have had a chance to lock up a starting position because nobody really was. That being said, you know, you bring in a couple transfers in the defensive backfield. And you bring in, you know, Zy Alexander is going to be back. So I doubt those are your guys who are going to get the first at bat. I'm interested to see does Toviano truly stick at cornerback for all of spring and all of fall, or are they going to bounce him around? Because there was some talk about him playing safety, and I think you might even argue that safety, I mean, you can get on the field at nickelback or safety, probably easiest at this point for LSU. So we'll have to see with those two guys. I tell you what, freshmen a lot of times come in and struggle, so I'm not willing to just sit here and give up on them. But they've got every opportunity to go out there and shine and show what's up. I mean, you got to also think about guys like J.K. Johnson, who was hurt all last year, and coaches are talking a lot about what he's doing this spring.
So, you know, it's early in spring, and they kicked spring break this week, so just kind of not a ton of buzz. But over at Tiger Bait, you and Mike and Buddy and the folks, like, is there any early buzz on anybody that y'all have heard?
In the sophomore class specifically?
Just anybody as far as this conversation goes.
Oh, man. Well, I just touched on one, the J.K. Johnson here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think just open-ended here. I've got my eyes on Chris Hilton in a big way.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw fall camp a year ago. That connection with Nussmeier was really something special. Man, buzz.
It's not a happening time this week because they've been out. They haven't practiced.
I know they've been out for a
week
now. Yeah, you hit me with a big open-ended question.
Yeah.
PJ Woodland. Okay, PJ Woodland is actually one that's really turning some heads out there, more so than expected. He wasn't a highly recruited guy, although he was the defensive player of the state of Mississippi last year. Very slender, small guy. He probably came in at 170 or so. But he's a guy they're really liking out there. So keep an eye out for P.J. Woodland maybe being a surprise player.
Maybe a little more meat on the bone next week after we watch him practice a couple times out on the Ponderosa from spring break. Preston, have a great weekend. Thanks, man.
All right, Hunt. See you then.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.